Hey everyone, welcome back to Political X. For more knowledge and updates on UK, European and US politics, make sure you subscribe to this channel. This is Sir Desmond Angus Swayne, an interesting character, a teacher at one point, worked at the Royal Bank of Scotland as a manager and worked in computing, and he's been knighted Sir Desmond Swayne as a result of being in politics for so long, and he's done a bit of controversial stuff as well. He was caught up in the expenses scandal and had to repay £6,131 because he claimed for a new kitchen at his second home flat in North Kensington, and he also claimed for a water bill. In September 2019, he remarked that blackface was an entirely acceptable bit of fun, and most recently, as August 18th, 21, he criticised Afghan refugees for queuing at the airport rather than joining the resistance after the fall of Kabul. I have to say, it's my turn to have a little bit of fun. So, I discovered a TV show where Desmond Swayne has an identical character, and interestingly enough, it's a Jewish family, and he's also caused controversy by being on a radio show, The Richie Allen Show, which has been criticised by the Board of Deputies of British Jews for having anti-Semitic views.
I knew this woman once.
Did you?
Oh yes, we met in a cave.
Right.
And then there was the other one.
The other one.
You remember the other one, don't you? The angry lady.
Hello all!
That's a piano.
Yes.
It's very realistic. I could almost play it. Ding, ding, ding.
So enough of the fun. Let's get to the serious topic. He's been caught out in Parliament this August talking about Afghanis and what they should be doing, sort of reading from the Righteous Act. Let's have a listen.
I think that we've got to support them in the continuation of a demand for liberty and justice, and not to simply say, well, all right, come to the UK instead.
It's all good and well saying that from a safe position in a safe country, but let's look at World War II. In fact, let's have a real good think about that. Have a listen to this next piece and have a look at the question I've written. Imagine he's doing this and it's World War II. The picture in front of you are Jewish refugees.
Now, you made an intervention to the leader of the opposition earlier today, saying making a similar case, saying that perhaps we should have more sympathy for those who remain to fight. What did you make of his response?
Well, I think he misunderstood. I think he took it as a personal criticism that I was attempting to goad him. That was certainly the way I took his response. I wasn't. I was simply making the point that, you know, if we were overthrown by a ghastly, vicious, brutal regime, the question we would all have to ask ourselves is, do we stay and resist, or do we flee?
It's not always possible. He makes it sound as if it's possible for everyone to do that. Some people have been forced out of their homes. Others are aware they've got a target on their back, mainly because they've helped out British and American troops. So who exactly is he aiming this at? How does he know what the figures are of who and how many should come over? What the hell makes him an expert? This country took 70,000 refugees in September 1939. 70,000 Jewish refugees, 10,000 children. That's not even our full quota for this year. That's 5,000 this year. And we're involved in part of this chaos, both in going to invade Afghanistan and also leaving Afghanistan and just dumping the problem on the population, rapidly dumping it on them to the point where they were not quick enough to be able to react to it, or at least that's the claim. Would he be saying this in World War II about Jewish refugees? Makes you wonder.
And that is something that we haven't had to confront, and I have every sympathy with people in Afghanistan who are having to make that decision. And clearly some have got to go or they'll be killed horribly.
So at least he's now saying, okay, I recognise there might be a problem for some, but what number is that?
But I think that we have to have a sense that the duty of most Afghans will be to hang on in their country and see what they can do to save it, as we would here.
Again, Imagine if he was saying this during World War II and he was saying this is what the Jewish community should do in Germany. Now the other thing I'm going to show you is a couple of clips that were taken in April earlier this year as the Americans were withdrawing. Have a listen to what the Afghani military say about the withdrawal process and what they need and what they have.
Well, we weren't expecting it to come this soon. So there hasn't really been a proper transition. It has helped in one way, but also put us at risk in others. We had to expedite self-reliance and self-sufficiency with our security forces at a much faster pace than what we were preparing for.
And the risk?
The Taliban could see opportunity and attack us like they did and think that they could overrun a couple of provinces and put us in a situation where it may be hard for us to take them back.
Has American troops pulling out made your ability to protect civilians harder?
The capabilities we have built over the last 20 years.
تا جمع شدن در مرکز و قدم تیم انجینری خودم قماندانی هست، یعنی اگر وقت امکانش بود کمک میکردن، ولی مشکلاتی یعنی از تیم انجینری یا وسایل مشکلی یا برای ماست. وسایلی خمسا کردن ما این هم بسیار با کمبودی از اون مواجه هستیم.
Do you wish that the Americans had stayed?
بودنشان خوب است چون نظر به وسایلی پیشرفته نداره. مینیمی یک چیزی است که آن شما با چشم و سر مشاهده میکنین که چیز.
And that's exactly what happened. That is a really dark prediction, and I am going to do a video on the collapse in Afghanistan and comparing that to Vietnam at a later date. But that is chilling. But we've got Sir Desmond Swayne sort of going, no, you got to defend yourself. And it's like, well, they're not prepared. They haven't got the equipment they need, and you haven't given them the time they need to sort this out.
نتیجه نمیده. زیاد دوستای میاره، زیاد نیروهای امنیتی ما را به شهادت رسانده، فقط ما نیست.
Yet Jim, the controversial here, has decided that no, you should be able to defend it on your own. You know, the Taliban are able to. The Taliban are financed through probably a number of very wealthy individuals, and they're also being fueled and paid for with selling heroin, which is earning them, from some accounts I've seen in the press, billions. You've got to equal that. But if you actually look at the general income and tax income that the Afghan government gets yearly, it's next to nothing. I mean, it's based on their GDP, which is 20 billion, and they get a tax revenue of that of 9%. How are you going to use that to finance weapons on the same scale when you're also not selling illegal narcotics and the opposition are? They've got an ideological stance behind them. They've got the money behind them. They're psychopaths. And we've just let them waltz in, and you've got this idiot essentially telling us, oh, they should stick around and stay. With what? Harsh language?
20,000 Afghan refugees to this country in the next 5 years. Is that a sensible position that the government has taken?
I think that is reasonable, but we've been beset with demands today to, vastly, hundreds of thousands have been spoken of. Britain is full.
Again, imagine if this was Jewish refugees. And on top of that, we took in 70,000, 10,000 children at the beginning of World War II. We've also had a mass exodus from this country from EU citizens because of Brexit. I mean, some figures are suggesting up to 1 million. So don't tell me there isn't enough room. What you are going to hear him complain about in a minute is housing.
The biggest issue in my post bag in the New Forest is the shortage of housing. People haven't got anywhere to live, and yet we're opening the doors to a great many more.
From the way he talks, genuinely, I could believe that he does actually live in a forest and that there's a post bag that he goes to among an old track to collect his post. I could genuinely believe that. He's saying he's got a housing shortage. That's his fault? That's the government? The stuff I've put up in front of you is 3D house building. You can build a house in 24 hours. It can be ready and done with 3 workmen in a week. Finished off. So don't tell me there isn't housing available or there are ideas and solutions to the problem. It's that I haven't built enough houses. That's the Conservatives for you. 67,000 houses this year. We need to be building about 250,000. We can increase that. I think I calculated it by about 10 to 20 fold using 3D printing. If you can scale it up. But of course the government isn't doing anything to scale it up. The government isn't that forward thinking. They're still dilly-dallying around with old school, antiquated thinking, techniques, business. They are so behind. They are so Victorian in their thinking. So on that note, what do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Please put it into the comments. In the meantime, let's finish off with a little bit of Jim.
That's a piano.
Yes.
It's very realistic. I could almost play it. Ding, ding, ding.
I hope you enjoyed my political observations this week. If you'd like to support me, please share the video with others and post about it on social media. If you're keen for more, subscribe, comment, like, and hit that notification button. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on Political X.